Sure,
a
yeah.
business like this?
So first things first, I mean, I think, everybody in this room, right, is an agent and has a different kind of business, and whether it's sphere of influence or you do your own marketing or however you generate your leads, people come across different opportunities. I think one thing that I have learned over the years is that there are a lot of sellers that would prefer to sell off market. Certainly there are plenty of people who have a normal, nice house and they just sell it the traditional way, hire an agent and go that route. And obviously that's what you guys do every day. There's a wealth of sellers that want to do something else. And it's not always the sellers who, where you go to the house and it's floor to ceiling hoarder situation or the roof is caved in or whatever. There's certainly people like that. But there are a ton of people out there that want to just sell more conveniently and understand that they're going to get less money. They recognize the trade-off and they accept that and would prefer to do it sort of more conveniently. And I think just because it may make more sense fiscally for somebody to list their house, it's in pretty good condition, maybe they do a couple things and list it or sell it as is or what have you, doesn't mean that that's what they're going to do. In fact, that's why we're in business. I met with somebody yesterday whose house was in excellent condition and certainly understands that they could sell with an agent and has elected not to. We've bought 4 or 5 houses from real estate agents who just didn't want to go through it themselves. So I always like to sort of lead with that. I mean, there is a tremendous sort of segment of the market, maybe bigger than some folks realize, certainly bigger than I realized initially, of people that, they may not necessarily tell you that because you're showing up as an agent or you're talking to them on the phone as an agent, but that want to and will ultimately sell their house off market for cash to a wholesaler, investor, however. And those are opportunities that I think in some instances agents may not have a mechanism or really be in a position to take advantage of and monetize, right? So a big part of what I think we wanted to talk about today was options that you might have depending on your business when you come across opportunities like that. So anytime you meet with somebody that is a potential candidate, maybe their house is not perfect, doesn't have to be a complete mess, there's maybe an opportunity to have another discussion or at least explore with them their interest in not selling for cash. Obviously your first priority is getting a listing, and that should be your first priority, and that should sort of always take precedent, and that's what you do and what you know. But I think the idea is not to lose business when situations sort of fall outside of that scope, right? So certainly I'm sure everybody in this room at some point or another has met with somebody, didn't get that business, and perhaps later found out that that person sold their property to an investor for less money than you could have listed it for. And that's an outcome that is not great if the only thing that you sort of have to put on the table is listing. So, Dan, I don't know if you want to do we want to go one by one here, or do you want to sort of talk more about the marketing piece?
Sure, yeah, let's talk a little more about the marketing piece.
Okay.
So the vast majority, how do you build a sustainable wholesaling business? We'll just cover this real quickly and then focus a little bit on lead generation. So I think the 4 components that are most important are you got to find people who have properties who are where the properties make sense for an investment. But, these are typically fix and flips or potentially tear down, new build type of properties. Sometimes they're nicer, but that's the preponderance of the properties we deal with. You've got to understand the economics of these deals. So, a house that's worth $500,000 after renovation that needs a renovation is not going to make sense at $450,000. Okay, you've got to understand the economics of buying a property, paying closing costs, paying carrying costs, paying the renovation costs, reselling it, paying those costs, and having a profit left over. So you have to understand that. You have to do those numbers correctly. And then once you do that, you'll begin to make offers on properties. You want to, you want to have a good and effective sales process for doing so, where people feel comfortable working with you to sell their home. And if your plan is to wholesale the property, then you're going to want to have a deep buyers list. So lots of people who are interested in these types of properties who you can move them to. So focusing on the first part for now. So our business today is heavily oriented towards inbound. So we've set ourselves up in a way where we can be found on television, online, through pay-per-click and search engine optimization. So the majority of the day, we're getting online submissions and we're getting phone calls from people who want to sell their homes. They want to get an offer on their property and they are not interested in listing it. For whatever reason, again, I'd say probably the majority of the people who call in or submit to us, we suggest that they should talk to a realtor and also consider listing their home. This is probably like 80% of the leads that come in. We're probably successful in arranging a meeting like that 20% of the time. So there's a significant bunch there that even though we can tell it's in their best interest to list this home, we recommend they meet with an agent and list this home, they refuse. And they insist on meeting with us. They insist on selling their home directly without paying an agent in between. So we end up, as Kevin said, we end up sort of like doing more of these deals than you might otherwise expect. It's not entirely, homes built in 1850 that are about to fall over. As far as, and then just going back to how you guys or anyone else can find these types of opportunities. So the ways that we're primarily doing it today are pretty expensive. So the pay-per-click, television, that stuff's expensive to generate seller leads. There are less expensive ways to do it. Sort of entry, lower cost ways to do it are things like cold calling, sort of driving for dollars, going around in your neighborhood or neighborhoods that you might be interested in, or where you think there's sort of a lot of investment activity happening, finding properties that look run down, maybe sending them mailers, again, calling. You can even buy lists of properties that you think could be good opportunities. Mail has been a staple for us for a long time. We started sending much less than we do now. So you can start with smaller lists and still get good opportunities.